probably have to ask the musician. I think it's we have found a perfect way of work together and performing together. It's I really can feel very well the intention and the musical approach of Kris, and it's very easy to follow.
That's very true. But that being said, I think it's important to highlight how unique the set of skills is that go into making something like this possible. I mean, I don't mean the solo part, but marshalling the orchestral forces in such a focused, disciplined way in this repertoire is something I don't really know anyone else who can do it as well as Golle. You know, it's one thing standing in front of an orchestra and telling them what to do with a stick, but it's quite another thing being able to guide the forces in this very organic way that includes what I'm doing, but also pays homage to this sort of large chamber music organism. And Golle handles that just better than anyone I know, being able to make the whole mass move at times when it needs to, but providing structure and clarity as well simultaneously. And I think it really speaks to what it must have been like to perform these pieces in the 19th century as well, like really a team of experts playing together, but not yet being conducted in the late 19th century sense of the word. So it's a great recreation of that flexibility.
Well, leading and playing is really special. You have to be very patient.
Yes, absolutely.
And
yes, you do.
You have you have to have a certain masochistic feeling because it's very difficult to lead and to play by memory.
Yes,
because you have no score.
Right.
And
I don't know how you do it. It's really extraordinary.
Yeah, but it's really great fun, and the orchestra loves it. And this is the point. You have to enjoy this way of interacting with a musician.
Yeah.
But on the other side, really to work on precision and musical shape.
Yes, absolutely.
So this is very important to work this out.
It's very fluid. I mean, it's sort of like a lot of energies coming from all at once sometimes, which can be a little bit disheartening, distracting. But in essence, it's just a sort of, between the two of us, a kind of pool of ideas that then just gets sort of presented in a sense. It's not one person saying this will be like this. It's sort of like something that's taking shape as in real time, like a souffle or something, or a cake rising in the oven. You like, oh, I think we need to do more of this in this department, and that needs to be lighter here, but this needs more flow. You can't really decide on the interpretation as an absolute at home in your bathtub. You have to be with it and the sound and the way the timpani sounds with the rest of the orchestra and the balance of the winds. And that's something we do in real time during the rehearsals, I think.
When I have the feeling I want to lead the rehearsal in a certain direction,
Yes.
I ask you.
Yes.
And I try to find out what your thoughts are
Exactly.
in the music, and
Whether we're in agreement, which
I
is...
think this worked
Yeah,
very well
for sure.
with Beethoven. I think the secret of Beethoven is his personality. So I think Beethoven is very subjective, a musical person, which made a big step into the romantic aesthetics of music history, and I can find myself in so many details of his musical thinking, and in my opinion, there is no overkill, a musical overkill, because it's very important what the Freiburger Baroque Orchestra has to say about Beethoven. I mean, of course, we are a kind of Bach orchestra. Somehow, we are, in a way, we have a history of as a Mozart orchestra, but also we played a lot of Beethoven. We played all the symphonies, the piano concerti, violin concerto, and triple concerto, and I think it's important to what the Freiburg Baroque Orchestra has to say with this music.
I agree, and precisely that is what makes it so unique to hear this repertoire in a context like this. It's not just that it's on period instruments, it's that this is a period instrument orchestra that has a kind of pedigree that came from the early 18th century and then stretched and widened in a sense to mature Mozart. And hearing this music in a linear fashion from the middle of the 18th century to the late 18th century to the beginning of the 19th is a very different way of approaching it versus the sort of corporation orchestra ideal that you hear even with some larger period instrument orchestras who are playing this music as if it's Berlioz light in a way. And I think it's very good that you sense that this is an orchestra in which the parameters are being stretched to their very limits, as if we've just played a concert of late Mozart symphonies, and now suddenly we play Beethoven piano concertos, and you can see that the mechanism of the orchestra, of what the instruments are asked to do, is being stretched to breaking point. And that, I think that's only something that you hear when you have people who are really experienced in playing Mozart, for example, that Beethoven comes across as much more risky and fraught and dangerous in a sense. And I like the sense that sound world is being tested. It's certainly the Beethoven. I think, as Gottfried says, it's right that Beethoven's personality shines through in everything, and the incredible subjectivity of that means that you have to be in this state of mind all the time with Beethoven, where so much of his music is just about state of mind. It's about a kind of a mind feel to things. You know, you've got this tiny bit of material that gets thrown around the orchestra thousands of times in a movement. It's not really about refined melody in a sense, in the way that you have in a Mozart rondo, but you have to be committed to the character at all times, otherwise the material just sort of fades into the background. And I think somehow with Mozart, somehow the sheer quality, beauty of the simple melodic writing, you can listen to in an elevator someone playing a Mozart clarinet concerto really badly and you think, terrible performance, but the bare bones of the material are just so astonishingly high quality all the time. But it's not the case with Beethoven. You have to live for the moment with every note, sometimes just with some crazy tiny minimal gesture, and that requires a huge amount of physical concentration, I find.
I think the interesting thing with Beethoven is he wasn't a hero and he wasn't a star. In his time, he was a human being with problems, and he had problems all over with people and with his musical thinking, and you can feel this in his music.
That's
It's sustained and always, and this gets a fantastic intensity.
Yes, you're right.
I like this.
I think, to be perfectly honest, it's kind of the opposite when I come back to Australia. I feel a little bit the syndrome of someone who's been away in Europe and America for a long time. And so you come back and I feel this quite big pressure for the concerts to be as good as possible, in the sense that people are thinking, oh, well, let's see what this guy can do. You know, he's been away for a while and here's the Freiburg Baroque Orchestra. there's a strong sense that it's a bit like playing for your family. You know, you have to really play the best that you possibly can. On the other hand, I think it's very clear that doing a project like this, Beethoven piano concertos on period instruments in Australia, is something that happens once every 20 years in the concert life here. So there's this palpable sense, I thought last night for the first concert, that audiences are so excited to hear and see something as unique as this.
Well, I think it's like in football.
Yeah.
The home is special if we play in Freiburg.
Yes, of course.
It's really...
One's a bit nervous somehow. Yeah.
Thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's first of all it's a fear because this is our work, and nobody can tell how it will be in 4 weeks. And of course we some concerts and projects have been cancelled. And this is not a good feeling for us because we have to earn money and play concerts. And
it feels a bit odd being in this part of the world while a lot of this is going on, in the sense that things in Europe are escalating so dramatically over the last few days. That is a weird feeling. It was a little bit the reverse a month or two ago when the concerts in Hong Kong and Korea were cancelled. We thought, oh, mainland China, Hong Kong, Singapore, let's avoid those places. And now, like, we're going to get on a plane tomorrow and go back to mainland Europe, continental Europe, and now the problem is really facing us in a very real way there. And that feels quite spooky to be returning to that, as it were. Well, I'd like to say to them that we are enormously we're filled with regret that those concerts weren't able to happen. I think I speak for myself, especially when I say that the chance to present those 2 programs of 3 Beethoven piano concertos and the Mozart Gallo was just, I mean, a kind of slice of repertoire that you can't imagine being better. So it was really for us a great shame that those concerts didn't happen, and that we would be so delighted to reschedule them and find another opportunity to present those programs to the Hong Kong and Korean audiences.
Hope and warmth and
there's a huge amount of that in his music. He speaks so deeply to people in a way that is very different when you hear people's reaction to a Mozart program. It's just, there's something that he taps into, some kind of human condition that he seems to portray or highlight, throw a spotlight on in these pieces, that they're also different from each other as well. Yeah, virtue. That's
I think there is no other componist who has such a sense of virtue.
Yeah, it's very true. Very true.